just stop. Here's Ross, the host with today's dose of common sense.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Good to see you. Boy, there's so much going on in the world today. It is hard to keep up with all of it, but today was an interesting day. 2 seizures of tanker vessels, one in the Caribbean and one in the northern Atlantic by Iceland, I think is what they said. I'll have to double check because we're going to do some screen sharing stuff here. So if you're just doing the audio only, I'll try to be as descriptive as possible. And here's another thing, YouTube. Okay, I upload through Spreaker, and it's a pretty good service. I mean, I haven't had any complaints about it as far as, how easy it is. But they had a deal with YouTube before, and then something went wrong, and they ended that deal with YouTube. So when you uploaded to Spreaker, it didn't automatically go to YouTube. And at some point in the last few weeks, I guess they renewed that deal. So now you're going to see 2 episodes on YouTube. One's going to be a video, and the other one's going to be a video with only the audio in it, because Spreaker doesn't upload videos. So what I do is I upload the video version to YouTube, and then I upload the audio version to Spreaker. But now I do the audio version to YouTube, do the video version to YouTube, do the audio version on Spreaker, and it distributes it everywhere, including YouTube now. So now there's going to be 2 episodes showing up, unless I stop doing the video episodes and just sticking to the audio. But not today, Satan. Today I have some visuals that I want to use. So this isn't going to be just an audio podcast. A lot going on. So today we had tankers being seized, and we had an ICE officer shoot an American citizen and kill her in Minneapolis. And there have been a lot of really bad takes on the whole Minneapolis ICE shooting. So I wanted to weigh in on that. Granted, I don't have any more expertise than anybody else. All I can do is look at the videos just like everybody else is doing. But I've seen some really bad takes by some people who I normally have respect for their opinions and their analysis. And some of them are just doing really poorly today. And I think it has to do with bias. I think a lot of people who are just, pro-Trump or pro this administration or pro-law enforcement, excessively pro-law enforcement, are going to side with the ICE agents just automatically. I guess they're going to assume the ICE agent did the right thing. And I'm not so sure that that's clear this time around. But we're going to look at that video and just kind of talk about it a little bit. Not too much. So trigger warning, we're going to be talking about death and destruction today. And this video, although it doesn't show any graphic violence, it does show the ICE agent firing his weapon into a vehicle where a woman was present. So we will be taking a look at that. So, a little trigger warning, get the kids out of the room or whatever you're going to do. So, but we have several videos out there, and I think this is Joe Scarborough. Can't even say I'm a fan, but what I do know is that this is probably the best video, and so we will go to the screen share, and that's going to be me, little tiny face down in the corner, but you can see in the center of your screen that what you have is one ICE agent grabbing the car door. The window is down. It's either rolled down or got busted. I don't know which, but the first video I watched starts several seconds before this, and I didn't see anybody break the window. So it kind of just looks like the window has been rolled down, like she was maybe talking to these guys. And for some reason, this guy runs over to her car door. Nobody else is approaching the vehicle. This guy runs over to the car door and tries to open it. Well, she starts to back up, and then she moves forward and starts turning to the right, like she's just trying to go down the street in the traffic lane. My understanding of this, based on eyewitness reports, is that there's like a parking lane on that street, and then there's a driving lane. And she was in the middle, almost like she was kind of stuck there. And at one point, they acted like she was trying to wave somebody by, like maybe she thought one of the ICE vehicles was just another driver. But that vehicle stopped, and she started to move. So I don't know what transpired right before that. It's all kind of vague, so hopefully there will be more video that comes out. But this guy grabs the door handle, it doesn't open, and she starts backing up and starts trying to drive away. And when she does that, there's an ICE agent in front of her vehicle. And so you get this, and they slowed it way down. So he can't get the door open. She starts moving forward. As soon as she starts moving forward, the ICE agent in front draws his weapon, and he puts a hand on the hood of the car and is at the corner of the vehicle when he fires one shot into the windshield and then fires two more shots into the window, into the open window. And I don't know if you're hearing that audio or not. There's people screaming in the audio, and when they turned it down, way down, they left the audio in there. So hopefully, I don't think I have desktop audio active right now, so hopefully you're not hearing it like I was. So here it is again. This is just the shooting part. She's backing up. The door doesn't open. He's acting like he's reaching in, like he's going to try to unlock the door or something. She moves forward. The other officer draws his weapon. It's basically a contact shot on the windshield, it looks like. Like he was at the corner of the left front quarter panel, like when she drove past. It may have nudged him, because there's another angle that we're going to look at that looks like it may have nicked him, like on one of his legs or something. But that was basically right against the windshield in front of the driver, but he was off to the side when he pulled that trigger. And so it's from this angle, it doesn't look as convincing, but something happened to the officer because he's losing his footing there. And I think the car may have clipped him on the knee or something. So there is another video. Let's see if we can get to that one. There's another video here, and it's really hard to see, but you can see that it looked like the officer gets pushed by the car. So if you're watching, it's behind this silver SUV. I think this silver SUV is another ICE vehicle. So I don't know if I can get this any bigger. Can I? What's that gonna look like? I don't think you can see it if I do that, because this is all silly. Let me see if I can expand it a little bit. Maybe can get a little better video, at least zoomed in a little bit. So we're going to play this one, and you can see the car comes out from behind this other SUV, and this officer, I don't really have a laser pointer or anything, but he's basically looks like he's on the other side of this silver SUV. And then when she moves forward, it looks like he has his hand on the hood of her car, and it pushes him out of the way. So it looks like he's got his hand on it, and when she drives forward, it pushes him. She's not driving into him directly. She's turning, and he was just leaning against the vehicle, and it looked like, it shoved him out of the way at a minimum. It may have clipped him on his left knee and caused him to lose some of his balance or something. But the first time he pulls the trigger, He is about right there. So it's virtually his pistol is virtually in contact with the windshield, which means he was on the side of the car when he fired. He wasn't in front of it. So I see a lot of. For those of you watching the video, this is the woman who was killed. Her name is Renee Good. She was 37 years old. And as far as people know at this point, she wasn't involved in any of the protests that were going on. She probably just somehow got stuck in the traffic jam that was happening. And so I don't know. Is it a clean shoot or not? I think all of your people who side with law enforcement all the time, they're like, the cops are always right. And it's okay if they beat people with nightsticks and shoot them occasionally if they're unarmed and they aren't resisting, or if they choke them to death. They're going to say it's a clean shoot. They're going to say it's good. People who have spent time in law enforcement and have gone through proper training and know what the laws and the rules are for escalation of force and use of force and the force continuum and all that other stuff, maybe not so much. And my understanding is that there are certain rules that the feds have about firing into a vehicle that's trying to flee. And they're not supposed to, unless that person poses an immediate danger to officers or the public. So it's all kind of up in the air right now. I know the guy walked away, and this is another thing that I find strange. They let that officer just leave. He left. He left the scene. He didn't stay there and go, I'm injured, get me an ambulance or whatever and take me to the hospital. He was walking around. He was walking very briskly, so he didn't appear to be injured. Now, trust me, I've been injured enough times to know that, he may have been injured and you just can't tell, because you can tweak a knee or an ankle or have a broken foot and you were just involved in a shooting or something. That's the least of your worries. So you might still just be up walking around even though it hurts. So we can't really judge that based on the fact that he was up and moving around. He could have a broken kneecap for all we know. But he just leaves. He walks away from the scene and gets in a vehicle and leaves. And so I don't know what the feds' rules are for just leaving the scene of an officer-involved shooting, but I don't think that's going to fly anywhere in any police department in this country, because that's kind of an important factor to have the people who were involved still there. So when they're figuring out what happened, they have you, they have your gun, they have all the witnesses right there. They shouldn't have to, track you down later on because you were allowed to just get in your vehicle and leave after you killed someone. That doesn't seem like normal procedure to me at all, and it's very, very strange. So either they wanted him off the scene because they did not want to have to explain this to anybody, but he wasn't being escorted off. He wasn't being dragged out of there and said, hey, you need to leave right now, like they're trying to protect him from the crowd. So he just wandered off on his own and got in a vehicle and left. Very strange behavior after an officer-involved shooting. I don't know what that's all about, but it's weird, and I don't think that it's proper. But this Renee Good is the person who died, and it's tragic. It is. It's very tragic, and you can't really say enough about something like that. How do you say it? Because, it's, even if she panicked and tried to drive away because she didn't want ICE to get her or whatever, she's an American citizen as far as I understand. So it's not really a problem like she was going to get deported. But, people panic. They're surrounded by cops and this is another thing that happens. So let me get rid of this screen share for a second. I see this a lot on videos and stuff, and especially in the last I don't know, quite a few years, is you'll have several officers around and they're all giving people conflicting commands. And then they wonder why the person can't comply, because one cop's telling him to get down on the ground, the other cop's telling him to put his hands in the air. One cop's telling him to get onto his knees, the other one's telling him to lay down on his belly or turn over onto your back. Put your hands against the wall, get on the floor. And there's been several shootings that have been like that in the last, 20 years, where the person can't comply because you have four different people. So you're, shouting orders at you. Now, you are supposed to have one person who's going to say, I'm in charge of this. I'm going to give the commands. Let's not confuse the guy. But who knows? Somebody could have been yelling at her to get out of the area, like, get out of here, get your car out of the way or whatever. Or they could have been saying, hey, get out of the vehicle. And she didn't want to. She may have gotten scared and wanted to drive away. Who knows what was going on in her mind when it happened. But a justified shooting, that I think is a stretch. So, but again, I think it's going to go right down that line. Well, all the people who, just cops can do no wrong are going to side with the law enforcement officer. And all the people who are ACAB, all cops are bad, they're, of course, going to side with the victim and say that the cop murdered her. And then you're going to have people in the middle who might have some actual analysis going on who are going to say, this is a very gray area, because could that cop have believed that his life was in danger because he thought this woman was trying to run him over? Probably. You could probably say that. But is his training and his rules and regulations of his department, under those rules and regulations, did he follow the proper procedure and shoot the person behind the wheel? We don't know yet. So I don't know if I can look up the actual procedures, how they get trained, but I don't know. I went through a federal law enforcement academy years and years and years ago, and I don't think they ever mentioned a scenario like this, and the person's trying to run you over. So I can't say how the feds might train people now. I don't really know. But I know that these types of things happen fairly often, and most of the time the cops don't shoot you. If you're just trying to get away, most of the time the cops don't pull a gun and just murder you on the side of the road. They get out of your way, and then they chase you in their vehicle. And so I'm not sure where I land on this one. This one's a little gray. It's a lot gray. It's very strange. So I'm going to leave that one up to the experts and see what they decide, but I don't know if we're going to ever get an actual appropriate answer to that. I doubt anything is going to happen to that cop. I don't know why I'm showing commercials on here. I don't know if anything will happen to him, whether he was right or wrong, because there are a lot of times when cops do the wrong things and there's no punishment for them anyway. And it happens over and over again. Sometimes people will be punished. They'll be arrested and charged with crimes, especially when there's a death involved and things like that. They'll lose their jobs. They'll get fired. They'll get blackballed. They'll lose their commission or whatever. But there have been incidents close to home here where law enforcement officers have been involved in shootings that were not justified shootings. And that was the determination was, no, it wasn't justified, but we have to look at it from the officer's perspective and blah, blah, blah. And the person walks away. Nothing happens. And the person, for the most part, in situations like that, the person's going to just walk away and go find a different department to work in, because you're probably not even going to get fired, but you don't want to stay in the same community after something like that. For the most part, I would think. So that happens. Like, even when the cop does the wrong thing and someone gets killed, most often nothing happens to anybody. And I really think that's something that we need to change, because you should be expected to, know the rules and live by them. But I don't know how this one's going to turn out. Neither do you. So all of you yahoos with your hot takes on Twitter, X, on shitter, whatever it is, I don't know. I call it shitter most of the time now. On to the other news, though. 2 tankers got seized today by the Coast Guard and the Navy. And, you get conflicting reports when things like this happen because it was, one report says the Coast Guard boarded this vessel, another one says the Navy boarded this vessel. But I do know that Navy SEALs boarded the one that I believe was in by Scotland. And they flew the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, flew out and took their special aircraft, and it looked like a little bird. What are those called? The MH-6? I forget now, but it's a little bird helicopter with seals dangling off the sides of it on the seats. You've all seen it in the Call of Duty games and stuff. So one of you 13-year-olds correct me on the make and model of the helicopter. But that's what it showed. There were people on the boat taking pictures, and somebody posted the pictures and said, hey, look, this is what we saw. And this looks like Navy SEALs coming to board our boat. But apparently there was no resistance. There was no violence. Nothing bad happened. Nobody wound up getting shot. They just seized the vessel. And usually when they do that, in a situation like this, the crew and everybody else is most likely just going to be released. There might be some Russians on that boat too. So, because they temporarily flagged it as Russian, and which is wrong because that was not it changed flags as it was going along. And apparently you can't do that under maritime law. I don't know, but I'm sure we'll just let the Russian people go, and whoever the crew of the ship, somebody's got to operate that ship and get it to the port where we want it to go. So that crew will probably stay on board and operate the ship until it gets where we want it to go, and then they'll be sent home too. I doubt that anybody's going to be taken to Gitmo over this. It could be. It depends on what they find on the boat, I guess. If they find a nuclear bomb in the cargo hold of this vessel, then maybe that might be a little different. But if they were just smuggling oil and gas or something like that, I don't think anybody's going to, get snatched up and thrown in the hoosegow over that. They'll just seize the ship and let everybody go. But there was some analysis that was being done where, and I'll never find it. Look, there's this Chuck Norris commercial. But, here, this picture. If you're looking, look at this picture here, and you'll see the ship in the distance. Like, this is Coast Guard guys in their cutter or whatever it is. And I forget the name. They said the name of the Coast Guard ship. And to be honest, nobody knows more about boarding these vessels than the Coast Guard. They do it all the time. They have the most experience doing these sorts of things. So, yeah, if you think you're going to have, armed militia, Somali pirate resistance on the ship, yeah, you're probably going to dump some SEALs on there and let them go whack everybody. But the Coast Guard does this every single day. So when you hear somebody say, oh, the Coast Guard did this, they have special teams that this is all they do, so they have the most experience doing that sort of thing all the time. So I would say they have more experience even than the SEALs of boarding vessels and taking over vessels, because that's kind of the Coast Guard's job. But when you're over in international waters and stuff, who knows, there are probably different rules you have to abide by. But the Coast Guard was following them. And you'll notice this picture, like you have the black on the hull. That's like the top portion of the hull. And I don't know much about tanker ships, but someone who was a boat guy said that there's too much of the lighter gray visible above the waterline for this ship to be loaded with oil. Because it would be in the water down close to the black line on the hull. Is that true? If you're like an expert on ships, yes, I spent 4 years in the Navy. I never went anywhere near a ship. So I don't know anything about ships, especially not big tanker ships. So I don't know if that's true. I know that, the displacement or whatever is going to differ depending on how much weight they're carrying, but I don't know where a tanker normally sits when it's loaded to the gills with oil. I suppose I could reference it and go look at some photographs and stuff, but I haven't done that because I saw that right before I started doing this. But The lighter color of the hull down there, that much of it being visible, means that it was not a full tanker, and it probably was not loaded with oil. So what was it carrying? Who knows? It could have been empty. We don't know. I don't know right now. I guess we won't know until somebody puts out some sort of an official statement and lets us know. But that one, yeah, the Marinera or Marinura, I don't know how it was formerly called the Bella One. That's the ship that's in the photograph. That's the Coast Guard guy checking it out. But I don't know. Interesting. If it wasn't loaded with oil, what was in it, if anything? If it's empty and it was just another game people are playing, like the Russians are like, oh, we got this empty tanker. Let's just send it out there and make the Navy follow it around for 2 weeks, because they've literally been tracking this boat for 2 weeks. So maybe the Russians are just screwing around with us, and it's just a big empty tanker, and they were paying this crew to just take it from Venezuela to Russia just to make us look stupid or something. Or it could be loaded with something that's not as heavy as oil, like weapons. I don't know. Who knows what it is? They could be evacuating Madero's, vintage car collection or something. Don't know. It could have just be loaded with money that he stole, and he's just going to give it to Putin now. So who knows? But we took down 2 of them. That one, the Marinera, it's a weird name for a ship, was up there between Iceland and Scotland, UK, and the other one was off in the Caribbean. Or was it the Caribbean? I don't remember. 2 boats. Don't know what was on them yet. But they called them part of the Shadow Fleet, which is, the illegal transportation of goods that are under sanction and things like that. But, looks like the Navy SEALs hit the one up in the Iceland area of Iceland. And there's a video here. I haven't watched it yet. So let's see the moments the U.S. seized oil tanker in the Caribbean Sea. So I'm not sure which one this is, but I'm also not seeing a video playing. So this is embarrassing. So if you're following along, there's supposed to be a video playing. That's not playing. So, all right. Thank you, BBC, for giving us an inoperable video. Cool. Appreciate it. Anyway, that's what's been going on, and it's pretty serious. The whole retaliation stuff. Russia said they sent some ships and a submarine out there, and they were going to protect that ship. Nothing happened, so there was no resistance on the ship or off the ship. No threatening behavior from the Russian Navy or anything like that. They just boarded the ship, and now it's ours, or whatever they're going to do with it. I don't know if we're going to keep it or if they're just going to make it dock somewhere. If it's empty, they just may let it go and say, go ahead, go back to Russia or wherever you're going. Who knows? There's a lot of information that they're not giving us about any of this stuff. And especially on the heels of this highly successful Maduro operation in Venezuela, they're probably going to be less likely to tell us anything. They're just going to act like they don't have anyone to be accountable to. And that's not good. But I think a lot of these things are being done without proper notifications to anybody, without proper consultations. And they've just told the Department of War, which is technically not a thing because you can't just change the name because you want to. So Secretary of Defense Hegseth and the Department of Defense isn't allowed to just go willy-nilly do a bunch of stuff without approval. And the president can't just say, yeah, I don't care what you do, go ahead and do whatever. I don't think that's kosher either. So we'll see. But we got a couple of boats there, and and ICE is shooting people now. So it's an ever changing world. I don't like it. I don't like what it's changing to. I really don't. I don't like American citizens having to be scared of their own government. That's not something that's American. I don't like that feeling at all. I don't like hearing people talk about it. I don't like knowing that people are afraid. And it bothers me. It really does. I don't know what's going to come of all of it. I think we're beyond a certain point now. And I don't think it's the point of no return. I don't think we've had that really crossing the Rubicon moment or something like that, whatever, analogy you want to use. But we have definitely gone past something. There's been a boundary that's been breached. And some of it I don't think we can pull back. So some of it is just going to be the ugly reality that we face all the time now because we allowed it to happen. And when you allow something to happen, it becomes normal eventually because no one put a stop to it. So I don't know what things are going to look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And, well, like I say, keep your head on a swivel and keep your powder dry because we don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? But anyway, be safe. Don't sell illegal Venezuelan oil and don't try to run over ICE officers, even if they're poorly trained and trigger happy. And take care of yourselves, take care of each other. And I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Be safe out there and, hug your kids, hug your family. Tell them you love them and be a good person. Be a good person this year. That's your goal for 2026 is be a good fucking person. You maniacs. I'm going to try to do the same thing. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Really? Just Stop with your host, Ross. Make sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss a dose of some common sense.